This is the intro that I was given for Christopher Cabaldon. And he looked at me and said, "Will you please cut that down?" So I don't know which part to take out. Probably the stuff they made up, I'll just take that out. But I'll give you a brief introduction. He asked me to keep this short and sweet. Mayor Christopher Cabaldon is the first mayor directly elected by West Sacramento voters and is currently serving his 4th elected term as mayor. He was the first elected to the West Sacramento City Council in 1996. Following 4 single-year mayoral appointments by the City Council, Mr. Cabaldon was elected by the voters to the office of mayor in November 2004, re-elected in 06, 08, and then in 2010. Mayor Cabaldon's work on transportation, land use, air quality, and climate change, housing, economic development has won numerous awards and has become a model for effective collaborative action. He chaired the groundbreaking blueprint for the future project of Sacramento Area Council of Governments, the region's Partnership for Prosperity project, and has served on a variety of transportation and air quality agency boards. Mr. Cabaldon has worked on state water and habitat issues for more than a decade as a member of the state's Delta Protection Commission, as well as the Regional Water Quality Control Board. The fact of the matter is, I could go on and on. The man has accomplished enormous things in this city. And this is your mayor to give you the State of the City address, Mr. Christopher Cabaldon.
So to the state of the city. And if you haven't checked in since last year's speech, let me give you the Christmas card version of what our West Sacramento family's been up to. So you can see behind me, we did a big remodel this year. We added a whole new downtown to the city. Our darling little IKEA, which was just so cute a couple of years ago, is now 5 years old. Our friends and neighbors got 1,200 new jobs in this community and some cool new places to live. The older kids started putting plays on across the street in the new theater. And they brought home a bunch of great report cards. We got all kinds of new awards and prizes this year. The ULI, Bob Chase, one of our planning commissioners, on behalf of the Urban Land Institute, picked West Sacramento for the Cool Projects Bike Tour. The Sacramento News and Review picked, I think, 5 of us for the readers and editors picked 5 of us for their awards. I'm not going to say what mine was because it was completely inappropriate and irreverent, but Rayleigh Field, Capitol Bowl, IKEA, the Wag Hotel for Dogs, and Jefferson Boulevard were all honored by the readers of the News and Review. The Rec Center won Sacramento Magazine's Best Municipal Investment in Fitness Award. The California Energy Commission commended the city for being only the 2nd city in California to adopt a green building ordinance that beats the state's new CalGreen standards. The Women's Transportation Seminar, Miriam Frosto, who's a local resident who was president of WTS, honored West Sacramento as the city of West Sacramento as the Employer of the Year. 4 residents of our community, which is far in excess of our share of the region's population, have been nominated for the 40 under 40 category by the Business Journal. In fact, Aaron Laurel, one of our city staffers, is in that group. The Public Works Association held their awards, and we won almost all of them for projects like the Streetscape and the Transit Center. As Oscar said, the Raiders ran the table in football, the River Cats did fantastic in baseball, and the Sacramento Gold, which had its inaugural year this last year as the region's top-level soccer team, not only did well, but won the entire national championship. Now, I'm going to go off script for just a second because of some stuff that happened today and yesterday that has nothing to do with the levies, but Sam mentioned it, and that is, I want to talk for just a moment about the Sacramento Kings, because there isn't a day that goes by that one of us on the City Council doesn't get a call or an email or a Twitter post or a Facebook post from someone that says, "Hey, have you thought about putting the Kings in West Sacramento?" And I want to take this on directly. Or just in the last couple of weeks, I think virtually every radio talk show host has said, "Well, the mayor of West Sac and his people could have got this done." And it's because of Rayleigh Field and our reputation for making things happen. And it's high praise because, the idea that our little hamlet of 47,000 people could pull off what San Diego and Seattle and Las Vegas and other sort of national class cities can't do that's a nice compliment. But could we really do it? I mean, Rayleigh Field, remember, was a $45 million project, which was about the same as Arco Arena, actually, but Arco Arena way back then. Rayleigh Field, we couldn't have done alone. That project only worked because of our partnership with Yolo County under the leadership of Mike McGowan, and Sacramento County critically to help us make the credit for that project. So there was not a lone cowboy out in the region making the project happen. Now, today, if Raley Field were to come to us, we could have built that $45 million project without any help from Sacramento County. But today, the arena would cost 10 times as much. So that's as much as our entire 20-year levee upgrade program for the entire city. That's a lot of money. It's 4 times as much as we spent on our entire new downtown. It's 4 times as much as the new Marriott Hotel that we're working to bring to the waterfront next to the Tower Bridge. And the hotel pencils out as a private development project. All the hotel needs from us, if we can figure out how to convert Chinese money into Korean money through a British bank and get it over here properly. But if we get that right, the hotel pencils out as a private development project. They just need our ability to borrow money longer at a lower interest rate. And in fact, that's what Raley Field needed. It didn't need any public money as a project to proceed. It just needed our credit. And we didn't have $5 million to put into Raley Field back then. We don't have $5 million to put into Arena right now, partly thanks to the state of California. So the idea that we would have $300 or $400 million, I just want to debunk this notion. The challenge for the Kings isn't finding an inexpensive place or a cheap piece of property with a supportive local government that will issue the building permits on time. We're that. It is that the MBA, unlike the River Cats, just doesn't pencil as a private development project. So I mean, let's be real about why this is a challenge. And so the bottom line is, thanks for the vote of confidence, but there's no secret room in the city hall, no war room where the city manager and I and the city council have a plot being hatched to build a Kings Arena. And it's why I've been urging on Mayor Johnson and offering our support, and he's to make this happen on his side of the river. He's taking on what is definitely an uphill battle, but it's one worth waging, and it's one that only he has any chance of making happen. He's making all the right moves. If you hadn't seen today, some major developments in that regard, and there's always hope. But I want this to be clear, because we are focused like a laser on our city's local priorities. And although we appreciate the votes of confidence and support around the Kings, our bets on the Kings are with the region and with the work that the city of Sacramento is doing. So no arena. Instead, we've got some what I want to characterize tonight at the beginning as the toughest challenges that our community has faced since we became a city 24 years ago. I'm going to spend the least amount of time tonight on the biggest challenge, and that's because we've been tackling it for 150 years, and I think collectively I've talked about it for 150 hours over the last 11 States of the City addresses. That's flood protection. And the bad news this year is that the president's budget for 2012 does not include the $1 million that we and the Army Corps of Engineers have proposed to keep all the required studies going to keep our massive levee project on track. And I've been pressing the White House, and with the support of Senators Boxer and Feinstein and Congressman Thompson, and as has been said earlier tonight, we're going to have a local delegation of public and private sector leaders out in the nation's capital next month to make the case both for that $1 million and for the $20 million that we have been proposing, and that the President is proposing to fund for $3 million to deepen the ship channel at the port. I don't want you to despair. It's $1 million on a $500 million project. If you had to pick a year of the next 20 that we didn't get our appropriation, the $1 million year is that year. The 20 and the 50 and the $75 million years, that's when we're really going to pull out all the stops. But we want to stay on schedule, and that's why the $1 million is so important, and why we really appreciate the partnership of the Chamber and others in order to make that happen. Now, the good news is that the actual levee projects are proceeding marvelously. We have already completed a couple of our levee improvement projects without any federal support or funding, but with deep cooperation from the Corps of Engineers. And we are about to go to design on the largest levee project that we have ever done, and that is the Sacramento River levee in Southport. Now, as he has for 25 years, Bill Kristoff on our City Council is shepherding this project along with RD 900 and the Corps and a lot of other partners, but we're going to design this summer in construction in 2013. It's a large project that is the biggest undertaking that we've ever done, but if we get it, when we complete that levee project, we will be almost 50% done. That project with the ones that we've already done will be almost 50% complete with all of the levee work that we need to finish for the entire city. That's critical, and it's an accomplishment no other place in California will be able to claim. Now, it matters both because 50% is a nice psychological marker, but because 50% is a key threshold for FEMA, for the Federal Emergency Management Agency, and their flood zone mapping program, which we have talked about together many, many times. But reaching that 50% threshold means a great deal to FEMA to say, yeah, you guys have this dialed. You're making it happen, and so it's a really critical project. So I encourage you, as you meet with federal officials and state officials, to continue to, as you have been, to convey the criticality of this levee project, not as a crisis. We're not running around like Chicken Little. The levee is definitely not about to fail, but we need the steady progress on the project for the next 15 years in order to continue our progress in that regard. So it's a big challenge, and we are sticking to it. So let me turn to the next big challenge, which is the fiscal sustainability of the city. This isn't news to anyone. Anybody that lives, owns a home, has or had a job, or operates a business, or works in a government agency has been dealing with the same issues that the city of West Sacramento is. The consequences of the global decline in the economy have been severe in the city, and we've taken aggressive action over the last 3 years to mitigate the impacts on the level of service and the quality of service in our community. And I'm proud to say that we have been one of the most fiscally healthy cities in the region as a result. But it's not just the economy, right? So if you think about if you're a private business owner having to deal with the economy, that's a tough one, and we've been doing it too. As our property values have decreased, our tax revenues have declined. Fully equal to the effect of the global economic downturn has been constant raids by the state of California. And I've been pretty tame about this over the last couple of years. I've been drawing attention to it, but but that stops tonight because the impact now is unimaginable. And I'm going to talk about redevelopment in a moment because it is the most critical issue to this community and to others like us across the state. But for year after year after year, we've seen these raids occur. And the Bee reported last week that over the last 3 years in this region, just last year alone, local government jobs, we lost 5,900 of them. Yeah, out of all the cities and the counties. 5,900 jobs lost in this region last year. Federal agencies lost 300 jobs in the last year. State government increased by 1,400. What we are seeing is the biggest transfer of not just employment, which is what those numbers indicate, but transfer of the public's wealth and investment in the future from local agencies to the state. And the implications are enormous. And it's important because the services that we all depend on, we expect the water to come out of the tap. We expect the firefighter to come. If we're having a heart attack, we expect that the levee will hold, depend on those local revenues. They are not luxuries. They're essential for our daily lives and for the daily operation of the businesses that keep our economy in place. And so we have to speak up because this year we're at it again. The state is at it again, and we know we don't have a cushion of 60% in our budget to sustain 4 years of successive hits from the state of California combined with the economy of 15% a year. It's just not possible. And so you will see, let me say this year, you will see changes in both the scope, the level of service that we offer in the city of West Sacramento. There is nothing, I can't sugarcoat it, and it is entirely been caused at this stage by actions at the state of California. And it's unacceptable. Now, we've taken a lot of aggressive actions internally. We've shrunk city government to the size that it was in 2004. That's 19% smaller than it was in 2008. We've had 50 retirements. We've eliminated virtually every vacancy that there is, and we've done a dozen layoffs in our community as well from the city. We don't have a lot of those options anymore. Most everybody that was within 27 years of retiring, we already begged and pleaded to retire. So there's not a lot of options in that regard. We're going to have to make some significant reductions. But just as important is the long-term fiscal sustainability of the city. It isn't just about the current year budget. And I think all of you are aware, the public's been very much engaged in the whole question around long-term benefit and retirement costs. And I need to assure you, we will be tackling this. We have over the last several months. The city manager and others have been participating in regional efforts in this regard. But the city council is going to be tackling this issue along with our partners in the unions that represent our employees and with the employees who are unrepresented. And it's because benefit costs are growing at an enormous rate. approaching 50% of salary and exceeding 50% of salary in some cases. And our costs have grown from $2 million to $8 million a year in just the last decade. A firefighter now costs us about $150,000, almost 42% of which is just for the retirement benefit. Now, a lot of folks in the news media and stuff say, well, why did cities grant all of these things? The cities went crazy, and the state should do something about it. Well, you know who caused all of this? Was the state. When the state said, hey, everybody gets free, local agencies, you get free retirement, and if Folsom does it, and Vacaville does it, then West Sacramento better do it, or we won't be able to hire any police officers or firefighters or the best economic development specialists. And so we have been forced into a choice that is not sustainable over time. There is an emerging public consensus about the key reforms, and we're going to be taking a look at them. Without approaching this in a punitive way, our employees have done everything right, and all in good faith as part of our team, and we want to protect their long-term interests, and we don't want to overcorrect. Jack Enos, who's the CEO of CalSTRS, one of our proudest employers in this community, will tell you that reforms are necessary, but at the same time we need to make sure that we understand that retirement investments in this situation is a long-term one, and we can't implement all of our policies based on the trough in the economy. But we are going to be attacking spiking and employer-paid contributions and lifetime health and the formulas that undergird retirement, and looking at hybrid systems and two-tiered systems and moving towards curriculum implementation. It's the only way to assure the sustainability of the basic public services in our community. So I mentioned redevelopment, and I want to turn to it. And I promise this speech will get a little more upbeat as we get along. I don't want to end on redevelopment, so I'm bringing it up now. Redevelopment, a lot of folks don't know what that is. All right, they've heard of it, or maybe they heard it has something to do with eminent domain. It doesn't really, at least not in our city. Here's the basic theory of redevelopment. A long time ago, people said, hey, you've got places that are abandoned or burnt out or oppressed by poverty, but if you made some investment in them, if the public sector, if government would just go in and fix the roads and get rid of the toxics and clean up the water and put in some basic public services, then the property values would go up and the tax revenues would go up, and that would repay government for having done all those investments in the first place. That's the basic theory of redevelopment. It's the same sort of theory that virtually every private investor makes. It's the theory that you use when you say, I'm going to put a little bit of money into renovating my bathroom or kitchen before I sell the house. So it's a very obvious one, and it has worked. There's no better example of a community where it has worked than West Sacramento, where those investments that we have made since 1987 have dramatically changed the property valuation in this community, and as a result, the tax base. And not just the tax base for the city, but the tax base for the county, the tax base for the school district, the community college district, the levy district, and even the mosquito abatement district. So redevelopment has worked, and we are among the best examples of that. And if it didn't exist, and this is one of the things I hope you will pay attention to as you hear state politicians talk about this, there would be less money today for schools and for social services and for public health and mental health today in this community if there had been no redevelopment. The fact that there is now, you say, well, now you're just getting an extra subsidy. We're repaying those investments that were made all those years before and all the way up to last week. So it is because cleaning up the toxics, keeping the roof up, creating jobs where they're needed, providing the infrastructure is so critical that we're fighting for our lives on redevelopment. Now, this proposal that the governor has made, and I should say I'm a big supporter of the governor, and I'm glad we have a governor that's willing to take on issues like this, even though he's dead wrong on this one. But I'm glad that he's willing to cross the Rubicon and go after people like me, but he's wrong on this one. And his specific proposal is even worse than the basic idea of just eliminating redevelopment. And let me tell you a couple of casualties about it. One is that money that folks in the Capitol say, well, we'll take the redevelopment money and give it back to schools. Well, let me tell you how that works. So money that we're paying in property taxes in the poorest parts of the city of West Sacramento, the redevelopment area, in Broderick, in Washington, in the mobile home parks along West Capitol Avenue. Those property taxes would then go into a pot county-wide and then get sent out all across the county. So money that is today going from Elkhorn Village or from the Casa Mobile mobile home park to support public schools that are desperately struggling in the poorest neighborhoods in Yolo County, that dollar will instead get apportioned, and some of it will end up in El Macero the richest part of Yolo County, that has no need for that money. It is the most upside-down social policy that you could imagine. So at the same time you withdraw all the investments in the public services and the basic infrastructure in the poorest parts of California that have the best potential to turn around, you send dollars to the richest areas of the state for the sole purpose of getting them to vote for a tax measure. I've been screaming and yelling and almost in tears about this issue because the implications are so severe. So pardon me if I don't hold it together. In addition to that piece, this proposal says all the assets of the redevelopment agency have to be disposed of essentially immediately, as soon as the legislature, if they do so, pass the law. Our redevelopment agency owns 300 plus acres of property in the city. Right? And you've seen newspaper articles that say it's stuff like the rail yards would have to be sold, and this would have a terrible effect on developers and all of that. Maybe it will. In fact, it will. But our properties aren't all like that. There's stuff like the rights-of-way for the extension of 5th Street. It's stuff like the Barge Canal Access Park, the very first public access to the waterways around the port that was ever created, the only legal place for fishing in the entire city of West Sacramento. We'd have to sell it to the highest bidder, close it down as a park. Places like that would have to be disposed of immediately. And imagine this, we put up a piece of property that is currently the right-of-way for the extension of 5th Street. Say we have to sell this, and we have to sell it by August. And Jack Enos, being a smart investor, says, I will buy it. It's a right-of-way. You're not gonna be able to sell it for very much. Nobody else will buy it because they can't build it. So I'll give you $50 for that piece of property that 5th Street needs to go down. Next year, we need to extend 5th Street to that property, through that property to serve the neighborhoods that we already have built. So we have to go back to Jack as the city now, not the redevelopment agency, and say, Jack, we need that property, would you be willing to sell it to us? Maybe for $50. And Jack, being no fool and having to take care of all the teachers' retirement in California, will say, no, but you could have it for $20,000, knowing that we have no legal options other than to get their property back. So the potential for rampant speculation and corruption from this proposal is enormous. And it is one of the reasons why I think it's not just half-baked. It is one of the worst proposals to come out of state government in a long time. And remember, the sale of that right-of-way, the sale of that Barge Canal Access Park, the money that gets generated from that, not one penny would go to the state coffers. Not one penny of it. It has nothing to do with solving the state budget crisis. Nothing whatsoever. It's just either a particularly mean-spirited piece of legislation or a really poorly thought out one, or both. But it has nothing to do with solving the state budget crisis. It is simply about crippling our ability to do our job on behalf of our citizens in our local community. And remember, state government has grown by 1,400 jobs in our region as we've lost 5,900. Now, of course, it is maddening to me. This is the least responsible level of government with the lowest level of public support and credibility, cannibalizing those governments that the public, both through their votes and through polls and every other measure, say are doing their job. So I hope, I know there are folks from the legislative staff here, but as folks in our community communicate with Senator Wolk and Assemblywoman Yamada and the governor and others, this is a critical issue. This is not just one of 100 issues on the list. This is number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The health of our future economy depends on it. Okay, so that's challenge number 3. Challenge number 4, and then I'm going to move on to some of the better stuff, is that we are dealing with a shift from a growth economy in our community, as everyone else is, and the region as a whole. And this is an important challenge, and Leslie McBride, who just finished her term as chair of the Regional Government Board, SACOG, is well aware of this issue. Our land use plans in the region are built around growth projections from 3 years ago. And you may say, well, planners always get that wrong, so it's no big deal. And no, it's not. It wouldn't normally be a big deal. But we built our region's transportation plans on those land use plans. So to cut to the chase, we have to cut out about $10 billion worth of transportation projects in our region's transportation budget. We care about that a great deal. Why? Because we want to build a streetcar system. We want to build a bridge or 2 or 3 or 20. We have a lot of investments that need to be made in transportation. Now, fortunately, cover your ears, Leslie, I chair the committee that is going through this process, and so I'm hopeful that we'll be able to protect our interests. But it's something for everyone in our community, and particularly the folks in the business community and the development community, to pay attention to. That less growth means less money in that budget. It means fewer projects. It also is going to mean a rush to have our projects defined as transit priority areas, which is going to be the highest priority for funding under this new regime. But the work that Oscar and Chris and the rest of the City Council have been doing on the streetcar project is going to depend on us being able to continue to make the case that West Sacramento ought to be the focal point for smart growth-oriented population growth, even if the overall regional level of growth is going to decline. And this is the year to be doing it. This is the 100th year of the I Street Bridge. I know if you've ridden or walked on it lately, it feels like it's the 500th anniversary of the I Street Bridge. It is just a spry 100 years old. But this is the year, I hope, that we will move forward with our bridge agreement with the City of Sacramento to move forward on real changes. So the 4 challenges: flood protection, long-term fiscal sustainability, redevelopment, and the growth shift are our top priorities. We're tackling them, not merely because they represent real threats, but because we had to clear them away so we can take advantage of what are still some amazing opportunities that are out there. As I said, I don't want to scare you. I want you to be aware of the challenges that we're undertaking and that we are meeting. There are challenges that make ghost towns out of other places. I've talked to other mayors in the country who have just thrown up their hands over the flood protection thing and are just waiting, hoping that the federal government will swoop in with $5 billion and fix all their problems. It won't. But here, we're not going to let those challenges defeat us. They just get juggled with everything else that the city manager and the rest of the team are dealing with. Some places put fluoride in their water. Here, we drink tiger's blood. And it is the reason why we're going to continue to take advantage of those opportunities. One of those tiger blood people in West Sacramento that I want to call out tonight is Mike McGowan. And that is because this year, this is kind of like Sam's introduction. No, I shouldn't need to say anything about Mike. Mike McGowan, our county supervisor, the first mayor of West Sacramento, and our closest partner in West Sacramento at the city level, who is one of the most extraordinary elected officials, if you haven't met or if you don't know well, not just in our community, not just in the county, but in all of California. He is extraordinarily bright, policy savvy, gets to the point, knows how to make a deal, knows how to get things done, bring people together, and get action. And while keeping everybody happy enough to move on to the next project next. And I want to call Mike out tonight because Mike has been selected by all of the county supervisors in California to be the first West Sacramentan ever to be president of the County Supervisors Association of California, effective next year. And we are so proud. And now, I walk down K Street Mall in Sacramento occasionally, and if you walk down that street at 11th Street, the CSAC offices is on K, near 11th. Mike's photo, like Chairman Mao, is right on the mall for everyone to see. So congratulations, Mike, and you do us proud. So let me tell you a little bit of the extraordinary good news that's occurring in our community, and a little bit of why West Sacramento somehow, despite all the challenges that I just outlined, keeps getting better. First, we're making jobs, and almost by ourselves, frankly, sustaining the manufacturing economy in our region. And not just keeping manufacturing going, but here in West Sacramento is where manufacturing is meeting modernity. Now, last year I talked to you about the solar array project that we're working on at the Port of Sacramento, the largest solar installation, what will be the largest solar array installation in the country. You've heard tonight about the massive expansion and retrofit at NorCal. I think last month, the Bee in the Business Journal stole our thunder from our announcement of our attraction of Nippon Shoken, which is one of the major Japanese food companies, to our community for both their manufacturing and distribution center, but also their United States headquarters. This is a big deal, and it was because of our traditional strength in industrial development, but also because of our relationship with the University of California at Davis and the intellectual capital that it represents, and the kind of place where their executives want to live. So we're very proud. We will have them at a future event, but Nippon Shoken is going to be one of the great new partners, bringing a lot of jobs and a lot of investment and a lot of new potential to our community. There's another company whose name I won't say because we've agreed not to talk about it, but if you look at our city council agenda from a week ago, their name is all over the agenda item. And it's a company whose name I won't say that makes electric vehicles. internationally. They have been one of the top prospects for the governor's office and for the state of California. They're currently in Stockton, having moved to Stockton from Mexico, but have been interested in leaving Stockton for reasons that I don't need to explain, and going to another state. And it has been a top priority for California to keep that company here because it is one of the fastest growing companies in one of the most important sectors in both the California economy, given our regulatory environment, and nationally and internationally. And I guess I can at least say we're very close to have inking a deal. We've penciled the deal to bring them here to West Sacramento. It's a major win for us and for California. And we're seeing stuff like this almost every week, and it is a strong sign that manufacturing is alive and well, and that the new kinds of manufacturing that really matter and that have good prospects in this country and in our region are coming to West Sacramento. Now, I mentioned UC Davis, and this is a really critical opportunity. Wow, UC Davis has gotten loud lately. So UC Davis has a relatively new chancellor, Linda Katehi, who is not here tonight, although many members of her team are here, and many of them live in our community and are active here as well. And the chancellor came from the University of Illinois at Champaign-Urbana. And I won't get the numbers right, but when she came here, she said, look, when I was at Champaign-Urbana, the research that we did helped to spur the creation of hundreds of startups in our community that stayed there and contributed to the economic vitality of the community and the region, and to the value that the research had in terms of its potential commercialization. When I came to Davis, she said, when I came to the university here, that number, instead of being in the hundreds, you could have on one or two hands. It was we were not in this region translating the technology, the intellectual capital, the innovation that was occurring at the university to market. To the detriment of both the campus, but also to the region in which the campus sits. So the chancellor issued an RFQ in the region for folks to make proposals around helping to make the university into an innovation hub. We're making that proposal. We are in the game to be the university's critical partner, along with a local venture capital firm, to do the same thing. And sometimes we don't recognize the asset that we have in this region at the University of California, Davis, and what the powerful economic opportunity really is. UC Davis is the #1 university in the country in agricultural sciences, in ecology and environment, in food science and nutrition. Now those are, unlike astrophysics, those are all easily translated to market done properly. At the same time, the valley in which we sit and the university sits and that our port serves, our valley is the most productive agricultural region in the world. Clarksburg, right next to us, is a great example of the transition of an agricultural community into a full-service, vertically integrated, high-value, crop-oriented region. And we're right next to the Capitol, which in both good and bad ways spurs innovation around all of these science-related issues by the regulatory and policy regime that the legislature and state agencies undertake. And so we're jointly proposing the creation of a food capital innovation hub that's based here, that would be a partnership between us, the University of California, Davis, and a venture capital firm that is organizing. With the notion that our strength in getting it done, our political stability, our business-friendly environment for fees and permitting, our port, our strengths in distribution, logistics, and manufacturing, our foreign trade zone, our affordable land, and the urban environment that creative workers want to be in are all unbeatable strengths for West Sacramento and for the partnership. Nippon Shoken actually is one of those examples. One of the reasons they wanted to be here is because their sauces, yakiniku sauces and everything else, they want to be and locate their research work next to the #1 university in the country for food science research. So it's about technology transfer, and if someday the university is able to isolate Adonis DNA, we want to be the place, and we can be the place, where isolating technologies like that and then transferring them to commercially viable enterprises in a cost-effective way, and then manufacturing and distributing them, not just a research park that some communities are happy to have, but a research park that's connected to the full range of the process of making money in this world, which means getting your products out, distribution, logistics, and manufacturing as well. We want to be the Silicon Valley of food. because that innovation drives growth and it drives competitiveness. And Chris Ledesma and Mark Johannesson on our council are working on this process and other efforts to reset our economic development strategies around these emerging opportunities. Now, I need to tell you, the City of Davis has also prepared an Innovation Hub proposal. Ours is better, of course, but the Davis plan rests on what they see as their two strengths. Davis is marginally closer to the university, though not if you're looking at it from Japan, and its residents are highly educated with the skills and talent to be globally competitive in precisely those technologies. We cannot take West Sacramento closer to the campus, so we're going to have to get smarter. We have to compete on our residents' education and skill levels if we are going to deliver the kinds of prosperity that they expect and they deserve. Now, 12 years ago, in this very same State of the City speech, I didn't start this one 12 years ago, but the speech that I gave 12 years ago with the same title, State of the City, I planted a flag for the future of our children. In that speech impaneled a Blue Ribbon Commission on Educational Excellence with a volunteer service of students, teachers, business executives, community leaders, and former elected officials in our community to chart a path out of the hopelessness and failure that was plaguing too many of our kids in too many of our neighborhoods. At some schools, fewer than 1 in 6 kids could read at grade level. Graduation rates were dismal, and it pretty much warranted a newspaper story if somebody was going to go on after graduation to a university. That year, we stopped pretending. We stopped pretending that there wasn't a crisis under our noses, that too many kids were being written off just because their families were poor or their parents were immigrants and couldn't speak English. That commission was controversial. It issued a blunt, no-nonsense report, and shortly thereafter, the voters transformed the school board and made a down payment on reform by passing not 1 but 2 local school bonds. And over the 8 years that have followed, since then, our schools and our kids made remarkable progress in virtually every respect, improving overall achievement, to some extent closing the achievement gap, and we have seen significant results, and more parents said, I'm going to keep my kids in local West Sacramento public schools. Now, but I want to caution you, because this is not a unending, no problems march towards progress at all times, like nothing is. In fact, over the last 3 years, that remarkable progress has slowed some. We've seen some challenges in 8th grade algebra proficiency. And although I know a lot of folks don't like algebra, algebra is one of the key gateways to later term success. And the preliminary results that we're starting to see on tests of college readiness that are given in the 10th and 11th grade are problematic. Now, they're problematic in a lot of places. We're no exception, but we're not meeting the average. The number of kids in our community who are taking the test in the first place to demonstrate college readiness is low, and those who pass, that percentage is low. In fact, on the test in the last year, the total number of Latino kids in our community who tested proficient in English and math and were college ready, 0. That's not a sustainable community. It's not a sustainable economy. And so we have to do better. Now, here's the bigger challenge. A lot of our overall statistics look pretty decent, but it's because our demographics have been changing. Those same schools that I talked about in the speech 12 years ago, where 1 in 6 kids could read at grade level, we're really not that much better today. It's that our overall district, our community, has a lot more high-achieving kids, but that's because the demographics of our community have changed in large measure. And so we need to applaud what we've accomplished as a community and what the school district and the teachers and the kids have done day in and day out to improve achievement, while not blinding ourselves to the significant challenge that we have ahead if we want to make sure that the kids in this community have opportunity and an opportunity to succeed and to be prosperous and to make our community better. And we need to give them a fighting chance. And we can't just accept schools that are good enough. We need innovation, we need excellence, and we need it in every one of the schools in our community. So I'm glad the school board is here tonight. They're working very hard on this issue, and the city's committed to doing the same. We're going to be launching a couple of initiatives over the next year that are modest, that are intended to start the process of getting the whole community engaged with the schools and the district and the teachers and the kids, because this is not something they can do alone. the project that Nate Eckler described, the Delta Marine program, indicates so clearly, it's really about engaging kids and showing them that the work that they're doing is relevant. A lot of us assume that, the conservatives in our community assume kids drop out of school because they can't cut it, right? They're just not smart, it's too hard, they're not smart enough, so they drop out. And then the Davis implants, they say, no, kids are dropping out of school because there's too much testing, right? And they just can't handle all that testing. Actually, neither of those things are true. The surveys and polls that get done of focus groups of kids say kids drop out of school because they're bored. They don't feel challenged, and they don't feel that the work that they're doing is relevant. And so the work of folks like that, like the working on boats as part of the curriculum and understanding its connection to physics and math and geometry is really critical. And it's the sort of thing the schools in our district are doing, but the whole community has to do it together. And that's why one of the things I want to work with the business community in our city around is math everywhere, algebra throughout West Sacramento, right? So that we'll work with algebra coaches, with businesses and other community organizations to help translate everyday life into terms that make sense in algebra, to help kids understand not just the importance of algebra, but to use it and apply it. So you don't ask your question, will I ever use this? No, you're using it right now when you're ordering food. You're using it right now when you're planning what size skateboard that you need to buy. We're gonna integrate algebra into our daily lives in a way that makes it relevant, makes it interesting, makes it useful. Reading. Reading is the other key barrier, not for 8th graders, but for small children. I think many of you have seen, and Mayor Johnson last month made the same point, which is that we know that if kids can't read effectively at 2nd and 3rd grade by then, we can very easily predict who's going to be going on to college, who's going to be graduating from high school. It's that important, being at grade level in reading in the 2nd and 3rd grade. And schools are doing reading, and they're requiring reading, they're doing as much as they can. All of us have to be part of that effort. Patty Wong at the Yolo County Library and her team are doing this as well, with a reading program every 17 minutes over at the library to try to reinforce this. But the whole community has to do it. We're blessed this year. I want to introduce, if she's here, ask her to stand up, Jocelyn from Big Tomato Publishing, who donated a set of books that we are going to be using to provide books to, in fact, you have them at your table. So at the center of your table, under the placemats, one of my favorite books, which is Delta and Dawn, the mother and baby whale's journey through West Sacramento, up to the port, which was written by local TV personality Stephanie Cruz and illustrated by Lily Toppenberg, who I think is related to Val Toppenberg, formerly of our redevelopment agency. She's donated enough of these books for us to provide one to every single kindergartner and every single preschool in our community. Preschooler. Now, when I grew up, I just took the textbook home and I got plenty of reading text. A lot of kids today do not have books of their own, and these sorts of things make a big difference. So every preschooler and every kindergarten will have Delta and Dawn. I've also donated Carlos Alcala, who's a former bee writer, who wrote a book called Sacramento Streetwise, which is really a simple little reference book about how each street in the Sacramento area, including Yolo County and West Sacramento, got its name. So it tells you how Bright Street got its name, or how KOVR Drive got its name. We're going to be providing one of these books to every first grader in the community, and I mean every first grader, not the public schools, private schools, charter schools, the whole range, because geography and the ability to locate streets and places is an important part of what's expected of first graders in part of their curriculum. And then the last book which you have at your tables is Gold on the Diamond, which is a history of Sacramento's greatest baseball players before the River Cats, which we're going to be providing to every Little Leaguer. And the point is not so much just these books, but simply to say that we all need to be reading with kids all the time. We need to be encouraging kids to be doing that. We're going to be organizing a citywide reading challenge for children in our community, and we've already got donations of Kindles and iPads and other sorts of things to encourage reading for fun outside of the classroom as well. Because it is going to take all of us. I'm not going to give the African proverb because it's a cliche at this point, but it does matter that everyone in the community take responsibility. Take a moment and figure out if you've got a second grader, if you spend time with a second grader, what are second graders supposed to learn this year? We do that in City Hall. Every year, the second graders at Westmore Oaks come here for a one-day visit. And before they get here, the firefighters and the city clerk and I would look at what are they supposed to know at the end of the year? What are they going to get tested on? Let's make sure that we're reinforcing that in our work. So, simply to say, education is all of our responsibility. We're going to be calling on everybody to be a part of it. Now, so education is a key part of that Innovation Hub proposal. The other part is our connection to food and agriculture in this community. And we have a rich history. We don't have a lot of farming in West Sacramento, but our connection to farming and to agriculture and agricultural science is a long and storied one. Now, for those of you who've been in our community a long time, it was, I think, 15 years ago, we used to have the West Sacramento Rice Festival right across the street, right on the other side of West Capitol Avenue. That was a local festival to celebrate our contributions to rice. And it was a ragtag group of folks that organized it and begged anybody that would come to set up a booth. And it lasted for a couple of years. The Downtown Association tried to make a go of it, and they did their best, and it didn't make it. In the last year, the Bright and Broader Community Action Group, along with others, helped to organize the Urban Farm Stand in our community up at Bright Park, as another attempt to try to invigorate our connections with local agriculture. But this year, and you've already heard a sliver, but I want to highlight it, our partners at the Chamber of Commerce and others in the community are about to deliver a stunning farmers market. I mean, it's going to be incredible. I mean, if you've been to any of these others, or if you've been to some of the farmers markets in the region, I mean, there are a couple of really great ones. This is going to be among those couple of really great ones. This has been done not with just an eye toward, can we get anybody to be here? It's going to be about high quality, it's going to be about local, it's going to be about healthy. So we will have all sorts of local restaurants that are going to be at the farmers market, but we'll also have farmers from throughout the county and throughout the region that are selling locally grown, healthy foods to families that want to try out the latest things that they learned on the Food Network, but also to families who have very little access to really fresh, high-quality foods in our community. It's a double win in that regard. And support local eateries. And since I'm saying eatery, let me mention one of those, because there'll be several local restaurants that will be participating at the market. But one of them I want to point out because they haven't opened yet. And other than when are you going to build a King's Arena, the next most frequent question I get is, when are we going to get some more restaurants? Well, we're about to. And that is a restaurant called The Eatery, which will be, and they're here. The Eatery is going to be a bistro. This is not a chain. It's not a chain you'll see everywhere else. This is a unique institution. It'll be a bistro in Southport that will be a great place. Table service and the whole thing. It's a real restaurant. The sort of thing that for some places it's just another thing. For us, this really matters, and the Eatery is going to be a big deal. They're going to be the specialists in strawberry shortcake at the farmers market. And they'll be out there every Thursday night, starting in May, showing folks what they've got to offer. But there's going to be all kinds of stuff like that. It supports the interface between the urban place that we are and the great agricultural bounty that is all around us, and supports the family farmers that are struggling, but that need our help and our business in order to keep going. It's going to be super sustainable. Thanks to a partnership with Waste Management, this is going to be the only zero waste farmers market on this side of San Francisco. Correct? Is that right, Jason? And it will lay the foundation for this food innovation hub that I described earlier. It's going to be right here across the street in downtown. It will activate the downtown area for a lot of folks in our community who don't even know the great things that have occurred on this street. It will bring them downtown to celebrate, to hear great music. It will be easily accessible by transit. Ride the bus here, take a bike here. At least for the first couple ones, you'll get some market bucks. It's going to be a way to introduce people to alternative ways to get to downtown other than driving. That's convenient and easy. You don't have to worry about getting to work on time. You just know, okay, I will get there to get my strawberry shortcake. If I'm 10 minutes late, it's okay. And then you'll find out, no, I won't be 10 minutes late. The bus is reliable and quick and safe and clean. It will be common ground, a community gathering place that we so desperately need, where people from Southport and Bright and Broderick and Old West Sac can come together and experience something amazing together. And it's going to be driven by kids. The level of youth engagement in this farmers market, not just volunteering and supporting it, but operating at one of the stands and learning the details of how business works. It's going to be a great triple bottom line win for our community. So thanks to the Chamber, to the grants that we've received, and to our city staff, to the community partners, to the businesses, the restaurants, this is going to be something really, really special, and we have to support it. The farmers market in Davis is spectacular, and it's spectacular because people come out day after day, because it's something not to be missed, and ours is going to be the same. Now, similar to that, just 2 blocks down from that is something else that's pretty extraordinary. And I gave you a highlight of this last year as it was emerging, but I think the building permits we got all taken care of this week, so we're ready to go. And that is Capitol Bowl. Capitol Bowl is about to launch a major project and remodel, which is going to be really something stunning for West Capitol Avenue and for our community. The remodel is preserving one of our iconic businesses, turning the tired old facade at Capitol Bowl into something that's beautiful and that rivals and complements what we've done at the Civic Center and City College and the library. And it will be an outdoor lounge, a full-service restaurant with a bar and a DJ booth, meeting spaces. It's going to be amazing, and we couldn't be more excited about it. And you will be able to see people perform there other than Mike McGowan and the Roadmasters, which is apparently there are people in other communities tell me there are other bands. Oh, Marty Swingle's band too. And so we're really excited about it, and it's going to, that and the Farmers Market together will activate the daytime and the nighttime of West Capitol Avenue in our downtown. And so the Capitol Bowl project is about to get started. There's going to be a great VIP celebration starting next week. And stay tuned. And until then, Capitol Bowl will be completely open, and it's a great place to spend an evening. So we're super excited about that. And across the street, Sacramento City College has been a great partner. They've been putting on production after production at our new community theater, and it has been absolutely amazing to see the arts blossom on West Capitol Avenue in a way that no one could have dreamed a decade ago. So thanks to Sacramento City College, both for the education that they're doing across the street and opening up opportunity for everyone in our community, but also really just making it fun and exciting and cultural on West Capitol Avenue again. Now, last summer, Marcos Berton, the columnist for The Bee, wrote a piece which has become legendary in our community about the differences between West Sacramento and Sacramento. And I don't want to focus on the differences as much as what he said about us, which is that West Sacramento has a can-do spirit, that our leaders are cohesive and share the same goal, making their city better. The mayor has partners, not enemies, on the city council. West Sacramento has a 188-acre dream of an energized urban core along its riverfront, and we're in a partnership that makes it work with developers who make their money here and have deep roots here. With each passing day, West Sacramento seems to shed its inferiority complex. It's not happenstance. Individuals and partnerships are the difference between, well, I'm not going to say the difference. Individuals and partnerships make West Sacramento's go-go spirit. He was inspired by the work that's happening in the Bridge District on our waterfront. You can't not notice it. If you drive along the freeway, or if you try to come to our downtown, or you're trying to get to points west of our city, you can't help but notice the massive construction projects that are going in our community, and how affirming it is about the future of this place, that this level of investment is occurring. If you can see from the freeway or from the river, that the river trail that is being constructed is just about done. You can see the work being done to create a whole new street grid, and you can see the beginnings of what will be the first housing project that gets underway next year in the Bridge District. This Tower Bridge Gateway project that is the reason for the closure right now, when it's done and you see the connection, the easy walk from here right to the Tower Bridge and beyond, or from the Tower Bridge to here, the weaving together of the waterfront district in our downtown is going to be something really, really special. And so we are excited about it. And the Bridge District itself won't just be another development project in the region. It'll be plugged in and sustainable. It's, as they say, blending brains and beauty. And they're encouraging folks to trade up to smarter development with the kind of cultural, economic, and biological diversity that's going to be really something to see. And so we're very excited about it. Next year, I'll talk a lot about the Bridge District, but I know this is an amazing year to be able to see the construction that is occurring and the potential that is unfolding. So West Sacramento has become the region's metaphor for success. You might have noticed for the first time this year I didn't tell our rags to riches story. I didn't give you any historical facts about 1920. And that's because it has just become an accepted fact that West Sacramento is, just the words West Sacramento are synonymous with hard work, vision, maturity, innovation, synonymous with winning in ways that make life better, safer, easier, more comfortable, and more fun for those that live, work, play, and invest here. And so it's not just Marcos Berton on the left, or Eric Hogue, who did a whole radio story about West Sacramento being amazing, or the citizens of Elk Grove who decided to change their form of government on the hope that maybe they could be more like West Sacramento. It was every TV station who did stories of tractors moving, about how West Sacramento was the winning city on the riverfront. It is something that is extraordinary, and it is the new normal here in West Sacramento. So you want to get something done, the Bee said. The Bee has said now 6 times in the last 7 months. You want to get something done, go to West Sacramento. They'll make it happen, and so we will. Thank you, and good night.